Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, everyone. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe, Pallavi. Thank you. Thank you, Madanji, for a wonderful session. I joined towards the end, heard Anshumanji talking about date with God. Really like that word and the concept. We should have a regular date with God and also spiritualize our action. So what we are discussing is what are the different bhavs in which we can have date with God. Okay. And today, finally, we come to the bhav that this shloka, in which this shloka, Lord Krishna is talking about, he's telling Arjun that I'm going to reveal this secret knowledge to you today being the day of the war, because you are my friend and my devotee. And today we are going to do the Sakhya bhav, friend. We have 5 bhavs, so we are at the midpoint now, third bhav today. That is what we are going to discuss, and our date with Bhagavad Gita begins now. So welcome, good morning, good evening again, everyone. We shall get started. Again, one more thing we are going to talk about today is the concept of Ashtasattvic bhav. What are those bhavs, and who has eligibility for it? And we will discuss the difference between the bhavs that we normally have in this world towards the relations around us, and the bhavs that we are discussing, which are in the spiritual realm. So we'll see the difference between those two as well. We'll have a bit of a discussion around that as well. So let's get started with our opening prayers. I'm going to share my screen and we will get underway. Pallavi, audio, video, everything looks fine.
All perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get started then. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening again to all of you. A very warm welcome. So let's get started. We are discussing chapter 4, verse 3. Just to do a quick recap, this particular shloka introduced the concept of Sakhya, friend, that bhav, and we took this opportunity to talk about all the bhavs in great detail and also touch upon some of the the profound knowledge around the bhakti or the bhavs themselves, and that is what we are discussing today. We are on the third bhav. Tomorrow we will do the fourth bhav. Friday, I would like to let everybody know that we are not going to have a class because we have Sanskriti event, and then we pick up the Madhurya bhav on Monday. That's on Valentine's, okay, which is Gopi Prem Divas is how we celebrate it. So we'll pick it up. Couple of sessions I think would be needed just to talk about Madhurya bhav and the nuances around it as illustrated in our scriptures and as Sri Maharaj Ji and Swamiji has explained to us. So let's get started. I'll recite the shloka and then we'll pick up some participants. Sa evayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. All right, Pallavi, your prerogative.
Please raise your hand. Okay, I see Shyamji. Shyamji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe,
Please
Shyamji.
go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Sa evayam maya tedya yogaha prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti रहस्यं ह्येतद् उत्तमम्.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice. And if you can turn on your camera, it will be wonderful. If for some reason you cannot, that's fine. Thank you, Rupa
Yeah,
ji.
Dinesh. Yeah, Rupa ji.
Yes,
Radhe Radhe. Yeah,
Radhe Radhe,
please
Rupa ji.
go ahead.
Radhe Radhe
Yeah,
everyone.
Radhe Radhe Rupa ji.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योग प्रोक्त पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्.
Wonderful, Rupa ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Uday ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead, Uday ji. Uday ji, are you able to unmute?
We can't hear you. Yeah. Uday ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्त पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे शका चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्.
Wonderful. Thank you, Uday ji. Radhe Radhe.
Dinesh ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योग प्रोक्त पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं हेतदुत्तमम्. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice. I think we can pick everybody today. I can see 3 or 4 hands. Let's quickly do that and then we can.
Yes, Riya ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Riya ji.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योग प्रोक्त पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्.
Wonderful.
Radhe
Thank you
Radhe.
so much, Riya ji. All right. 3 more hands and then we can
Yeah.
get started.
Aarti ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead. See, especially Amritvani ji mentioned to me about you that, okay, you didn't get chance yesterday.
Yes, Aarti ji, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry to say, but that is different Aarti.
Yes, I know that.
Oh, okay.
No worries. You got picked up regardless. So please go ahead.
Okay. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्.
Wonderful, Aarti ji, and congratulations for making your debut in recitation today. So very nice. All right.
Yeah, Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, am I audible?
Yes, very
Yes.
much.
Okay. स एवायं मया तेद्य योगप्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्.
Very
Radhe Radhe.
nice, Ramya ji, Shri Ramya ji, wonderful. All right, let's take maybe a couple of more hands and get started.
Yeah, Shalini ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, it's my debut too.
Yes.
Sa evayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam ta hayeta tuttamam.
Very nice, Shalini ji. Wonderful. We should hear from you more often. You did really well. I think we have got quite a few nominations for the debut award today. Wonderful. All right.
Yeah,
Let's,
Preeti ji, Radhe Radhe.
I think we can cover 3 more
Yeah.
real quickly and then we can get started. I'll cover it quickly. So we can cover everybody. Let's do it.
Okay. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Preeti ji.
स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति Rahasyam hetaduttamam. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, PTG. We'll take 2 more and then move on, because we have some good content to cover today. Wonderful. Very nice, PTG. It's like a flow of a river when you recite it. So very nice. All right, let's take 2 more and then get started.
Yes, Neetaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Neetaji, you're not audible.
Neetaji, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Sa evayam maya tedyam yoga prukta puratana bhakto asime sakha cheti rahasyam hetu duttamam.
Very nice, Ritaji. Thank you very much. Last one. Who's the lucky one today?
Lakshmi ji.
Lakshmi ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Sa evayam maya tetya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam.
Very nice, Lakshmi ji. And I think I see just one more hand. So Ashutosh ji.
Thank you.
Let's give Ashutosh ji as opportunity as well, and then we'll get started.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Good,
Lakshmi.
Ashutosh ji.
Ashutosh ji, yeah, please go ahead.
Sa evayam maya tedya yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktosi me shakha cheti rahasyam hetu uttamam.
Wonderful, Ashutosh ji. So this is for the credit you earned by singing here in front of all of us, okay? Whole Radhe you sang, right? So because of which you got the credit today. So thank you very much. Let's get started. If you can please mute yourself if you're not. Okay. Thank you. So let's get started. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying Arjun that this same ancient knowledge of yoga, which is the supreme secret, ancient knowledge, I'm today revealing unto you because you are my friend as well as my devotee who can understand this transcendental wisdom. Now, Krishna calling somebody as friend, just imagine the gravity of it, right? God is calling you your friend, right? He's acknowledging it. Just think of Arjun's fortune. Anyway, he was an Narnara, an avatar, but God is calling him his friend. And as a friend, if you can actually get to that stature, what level of bliss you can enjoy is what we're going to discuss a little bit today as well. Okay? So today we are going to proceed to the Sakhya Bhav. So let us get started with our deep dive discussion then. So yesterday, like we saw this Bhav and intimacy graph, and it started with Shant Bhav, the subject-object relationship as a king and the praja. Then we moved on to the Dasya Bhav. We looked at Hanumanji as a parikashtha or the peak or the epitome or the zenith, pinnacle, however you want to call it, as Dasya Bhav. That is what we discussed yesterday. And today we proceed further to get on to Sakhya Bhav. And as you can see, the intimacy and the Bhav both are increasing. So the level of Bhav you are feeling and the intimacy that you can enjoy with God, both are increasing. So let's get into that. And then intimacy is directly proportional to the proximity, and proximity, as you see, is also increasing with God. You are getting closer and closer and closer to God. More rights that you have over God. Friends can do a lot of things which as a das or as a praja we can't do. Friends can not only walk into your room, but they can put your hand around you. They can chastise you as well at times, and they can take much more liberties than a das or somebody who has a distant relationship with you can have. And that is what we are going to discuss today. So let's get into this bhav. And then if you look at it, this is the whole spectrum of bhavs, and we are on the third bhav today, which we are going to discuss, Sakha Bhav. We have gotten more closer to Lord now, to God. The distance is shrinking between the Jivatma and the God himself. All right, so as you can see, Lord Krishna is sitting merrily with his friends here. So this is the third bhav today, Sakhya Bhav is what we're going to discuss. Now in this bhav, Shri Krishna is the friend, and There's absolute no formality with him. When we are doing it in a Das Bhav, there are certain formalities we have to stick to. Right? We spoke about the example of Lakshmanji in Das Bhav. You cannot even put your feet where your Lord has put the feet. So wherever Lord Ram and Mother Sita were putting their feet, he would walk so that he's not putting his feet there. And then there are certain formalities around it as well. However, those formalities, they start melting away as you start getting closer. Now, in this case, there is more intimacy. There is loving respect, informality, and the servitude is there as well. Servitude remains. Now, Maharaj Ji has explained it very nicely. Like Sakhya Bhav mein to hai Govind Radhe, Nishtha Seva Vishrambh Tino Bata De. So in Radha Govind 5605, he's explained this, what happens in this particular bhav and what is your eligibility, to what level you can actually go, or what entitlement you get. It's like in our security industry, they say by virtue of the role that you have in your company, there are certain entitlements you get, certain privileges you get, certain access you get. So it's the same in these as well. As you get the higher stature, even in bhavs, you get more privileges. It opens up the possibilities of more privileges. Now, there are two kinds of friends in this case of Lord. The first one is who love Lord Krishna, God, adoring his majesty. Right? Like, for example, Arjun and Uddhav. Arjun was like, oh, if by mistake I have said something bad, something to you in my ignorance, after he sees the Vishwaswarup of Krishna, he actually says that. He says, if in ignorance I did that. So he understood his Aishwarya Shakti, who is Lord. Even Uddhav for that matter, he understood as well. I think Uddhav came up somewhere, I think in one of the WhatsApp messages. That message was beautiful, by the way. I cannot give credence to the authenticity of that dialogue, but the message was spot on, the knowledge, especially that was coming out from that message. So Arjun and Uddhav, they actually adored Lord Krishna because of his majesty. These are the two examples. And then there are friends like the cowherd boys of Braj. They loved Lord Krishna purely as his friend, like Madhu Mangal, Dhansukh, all those friends that he had. They did not identify him as a god, and they were not in love with Lord Krishna because they thought of him as God. So Aishwarya Shakti was not acknowledged. They loved him for who he was, not because he's God. And they, in fact, in Braj, they say God actually, his yoga, he actually makes people forget, even if occasionally his Aishwarya Shakti is revealed, like it happened in case of when this Leela happened, when Yashoda Maya saw the entire universe and inside his mouth, and even his friends came to know that when he had lifted Govardhan, Indra came and all that stuff. Whenever those kind of things would happen, he would make them forget it, because God doesn't want to impress them. It's like when you are impressed with somebody, you are not in love with that person, you are in love with the gun that they have. And in bhakti it said gun rahitam, right? You don't even think about the gunas of that person. You are in love with that person alone. And those friends were like that. They loved Krishna for whom he was. And who are these souls? These souls are two categories. One, the already realized souls who actually come and do Leela with God. Right? God typically comes with his gang, like we do. We like to go with our gang somewhere, right? And the other ones are the ones who are on the tipping point of God realization. So if you have actually worshipped God in Sakhya Bhav and you are at the tipping point, then God may give you that privilege or that opportunity in one of his avatars to become his friend and perfect your devotion and finally get to his abode. So both categories are possible. Now, what they would do, they would sometimes sit on his shoulders, make him play, make him become a horse, even kick him. Krishna would beckon them to kick him. He would enjoy all those pastimes with them. And they would get annoyed with him like friends in the normal world would do. We do that, right? We get annoyed, we throw tantrums with each other, we fight, and we pull each other's ears and all that stuff. And they would do the same with Lord Krishna. And if they would see Krishna in a somber mood or a glum mood, then they would do everything to please him. So that was the kind of relationship they had with Lord Krishna. Just friendship, pure friends, nothing else, nothing to do with his majesty whatsoever. So these are the two categories of friends that he had. So we'll talk about a bit about a Govardhan Leela, which is coming up here. So when this Govardhan Leela happened, just imagine the state of mind of his friends, Lord Krishna's friends. You know, when he actually lifted with his little finger, then Govardhan Hill, his friends were actually thinking, you know, this mountain is going to crumble down and crush all of us. So we need to help our friend here. So they started putting their sticks and everything as if they have to hold it. Okay, all the hard work they are doing. And some of his friends were saying, look at this lazy guy. You know, when we used to go out and graze cows, he would happily sleep, eat our food, happily sleep, and make us graze the cows. And now such a big problem has come upon our village, and even now he's just touching his finger as if, you know, we are his father's servant. So that is what they were thinking actually about Lord Krishna, that, you know, he's not doing anything, it's only because of our effort we have exerted ourselves. And so that was the bhav they had, absolutely nothing to do with his majesty at that point. And God actually establishes that relationship. In fact, I had this question as well. If God knows I am God, and his friends know he's God, or for that matter, Yashoda Maiya knows he's God, then that rus, the mellow in that Leela will diminish. So he makes sure he forgets himself and he makes the devotees forget as well. So that Leela or that rus is perfect as we would enjoy in, you know, non and regular Leela. So when she's wielding a stick, he's actually getting scared. It's not that he's putting on an act. He's actually getting scared. And when the master gets scared, what is the duty of the servant? Servants is usually duty is to come and protect their master. So that is why his Aishwarya Shakti, chupke, they say, secretly serve him even then. So when his master was so scared, they came and showed Yashoda the full glory of him in his mouth. And then Krishna said, okay, you're not allowed here. And then finally he made his mother forget as well. So point here being, in Sakhya Bhav, your heart is actually, you know, it melts in love for God in a friendship tone. That tone is set basically, and that relationship is established with God. And they did not have an inkling. In fact, when, you know, this Govardhan Leela happened, it was held for 7 straight days. And in during that Leela, they were terribly pained. You know, they're seeing that he's standing in a single posture like this. And then in order to ease his pain, Sridama, you know, he said that hand it over to Sridama for a bit. You might be hurting because you're standing like that. And if you don't want to do that, hold it with the finger of right hand. At least switch your hands. That's what they were telling him. We'll press your left hand. We cannot see you like this anymore. And for 7 days, Lord Krishna held on to that. And some of his friends, like I said, they were actually questioning initially to begin with that, you know, what is he doing? We are actually holding it and he's not even pulling his weight. He's just being a free rider here. So that was their emotion, pure emotion, like a friends would have. And in fact, this 7-day Leela has, you know, it actually, it's a bit of a trivia around that, because Krishna used to have Ashtayami meals. Yashoda Maiya would give him meal every 3 hours, Ashtayami meal. And for 7 days, because he was standing like that, he did not have any meals. So 7 into 8, 56 meals were skipped. So when this Leela was over, everything was restored, business as usual. Chappan Bhog were arranged for Krishna. And that is where the tradition of Chappan Bhog comes. So a lot of restaurants in India are called Chappan Bhog, right? We do Chappan Bhog. So that is the trivia around this Leela, because Krishna actually missed 56 meals. And that is how it started. So anyways, this is the relationship that these Gopas, Brajavasis had with Lord Krishna, and that is the Sakha Bhav, pure friendship. And they would even kick him, and Krishna would love to get kicked with them, and he would get defeated in games with them and all that good stuff like friends do. So that is the bhav these friends had. Furthermore, you know, once their friends, they put a wager. Wager is like putting money, right? So they might have put butter or something on the wager at that point, that, you know, who will become, the loser will become a horse and winner will ride on the back of the loser's back. And And then Lord Krishna lost, so that his friends would compel him to act like a horse and make them sit on top of him. And when Brahmaji saw this Leela, Brahmaji knows, right? Brahmaji actually came from the navel of the second expansion of the Param Purish. When he saw this amazing scene, that the governor or the master of the universe is being treated like this, the kind of intimacy these little boys are having with God, who's the absolute supreme, who permeates every atom of this universe, who's the basis of this entire existence. And when he's actually descended down in his pastime, these boys, the kind of intimacy, the kind of playfulness they have with him, how can they enjoy it? He was wondering. So he said, there's a shloka in Bhagavatam which says, what a grace on these illiterate cowherd boys. The veritable bliss, the Supreme God himself is his eternal bosom buddy. And it is said that in this bhav, you go up to Anurag Bhakti. Yesterday, if you remember, as a Dasya bhav, you can go up to Rag Bhakti. And Maharaj Ji has explained it. Sakhya bhav walon ko Govind Radhe Bhakti Anurag Purva tak pahuncha de. It is sung beautifully. So he's explained it very nicely that in this particular bhav, you will go up to Anurag level. So let's get to our big chart. So these are the levels of divine love all the way. And we started with the Shant Bhav, the Samatva Bhav was also it is called, and then the Sneha Bhakti, Mana Bhakti, Prana Bhakti. All these are the levels of bhakti that are possible. So Dasya Bhav goes up to Raga Bhakti, and then the Sakhya Bhav, as you can see, goes up to Anurag Bhakti. It's a level higher than that. We'll try to get a little sense of that, and will not go too detailed or deep into this concept, because maybe in one of the sessions we can do this series on going through each one of these in details, what it actually means. But then it'll get a little too heavy, so we'll just get a slight semblance of it and move on with that. So in this Dasya Bhav, the Rag Bhav, that question might come: what is the difference between Rag and Anurag in that case, right? So in this stage of perfection, the spontaneous love, it just increases. It is at a very high intensity. And the devotee cannot spend a moment without seizing an opportunity to please beloved by serving him. So that craving to serve Lord, the bliss that you get out of that. We'll talk about that bliss, by the way. If you think about it from a worldly mind, mundane mind, and regularly, okay, what kind of a bliss you would get to keep serving somebody, right? We are talking about a spiritual realm here. This is after God realization. Okay? This is not the regular bhavs. And we will look at some of the symptoms that can manifest in our body if we actually could get even a trace of any of these bhavs. We'll discuss about that, just so that you can get a sense of the bliss somebody can get out of it. So anyways, this is Rag, and if you look at the Anurag Bhakti, in this intensified love, it's like no matter how much one has experienced the beauty, the sweet voice gestures of God, they are ever new and ever fresh. And in fact, that is exactly how gopis this illustration of this is the example that I gave yesterday, that gopis were complaining to Brahmaji that you have just given us two eyes to look at God, and those eyes are also designed in such a way that they have to blink. Now just imagine the state. They cannot tolerate even separation, even for that fraction. It is called, I think it's called truti in our scriptures. Maybe we'll go through sometime over the whole units of time. It is the smallest unit of time, called truti, when you blink an eye. And then it goes up to all the way up to mass, and then kalpa. We will go through that chart. But even that is not tolerable to them. That is the Anurag Bhav. That is where the Sakhya Bhav can take you actually. All right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about what is the fundamental difference between the bhavs in the material world and those in divine realm, right? We can actually relate to these bhavs even in this world. We know how to serve somebody, We all are servants of our companies and shareholders to begin with. And then in addition to that, we serve relations, people, spouses, our kids, parents, all these things are there. And then we are talking about these bhavs, similar bhavs, at least from a definition standpoint, in the spiritual realm. Can anybody call out any fundamental difference between these bhavs, what we experience or what we do in material world versus what we are discussing right now? Would like to hear a little bit and then move on to get into the, when these bhav, what kind of bliss a jivatma can potentially get when they descend down as a saint, or they get even a trace of any of these bhavs is what I would like to spend a little bit of time on. But before that, I would like to understand from the participants real quick, what is the fundamental difference if they can call out? Yes, Pallaviji, you can call up. I can see a couple of hands, I guess.
Yeah, Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please
yes,
go ahead.
Ramya ji.
Radhe Radhe, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
Ramya ji, very much.
Yeah, so I think that in the material world, whatever bhav we have, it is not constant. Like it keeps changing all the time. Even if, let's say that if it is love towards the parents, it doesn't remain always. Sometimes we end up getting angry with them also, or it may turn out the other way. So it's not constant. And I'm guessing that in material world, the divine will, that bhav must be always constant. Even I don't know how it is there. So I think this is what is the fundamental difference.
Wonderful, Shri Ramya ji. I think you touched
Okay,
upon a
thank
very important point. Great. Let's hear from other participants as well. And before I add to this discussion, there's something else as well. Okay. But yes, it is impermanent. It fluctuates. It's like a sine curve. One day you will feel, wow, I've got the best person around me. Another day you'll say, I've never met somebody worse than that, right? It can fluctuate for sure. It doesn't happen in that way. Very sure. Very true. Let's hear from other participants real quick on this.
Yeah, Shalini ji, Radhe Radhe,
Shalini
please
ji,
go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, I'm going to try attempting this question. I think what I gather is in the material world, our bhav and our seva is very selfish. There is a selfish motive behind it. While in the divine realm, the concept is to please God and do as God wants you to do. And there's selfless love. So that's my understanding. I don't know. Radhe Radhe.
Nice, Shalini ji. Are you preparing for some spiritual exam these days?
No, not at all. I listen to you as often as I can, Nitinji. So all the learning is thanks to you.
I should thank Swamiji and Maharaj ji for that. But yeah, great point. I think let's build on that. But Shalini ji, you touched upon a very, very important topic point here. Let's hear from other participants real quick, and then we'll take this conversation further. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Annapurna ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah. Whoever talked before, they said, I just wanted to say that, in spiritual life, it is selfless love, whereas in material, it is just like business, there are a lot of expectations and everything. That is why it is keeps on changing from time to time, whereas material in spiritual realm, it can only increase. Always it can go more, and no limit is there. There is no Purnima, it goes on and on like that. I think that's the fundamental difference between material and divine realm.
Wonderful, Annapurna ji. Very true, very true. In fact, it is said in Bhakti ki kabhi Purnima nahi hoti. It's like waxing moon and full moon. There's no full moon ever in Bhakti. That is the beauty of Bhakti. It can remain ever fresh, and then there's absolutely no dearth of the bliss that God can give, and there is no limit to how much devotion you can inculcate towards God. Great point, Annapurna ji. Thank you so much. We can probably take 2 more participants and then move on. This discussion is we're going to thicken the plot now by bringing in some real characters in our lives around it. Okay, so yes, let's hear from a couple of other participants.
Yes, Aarti Pandey ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone, Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, ma'am. As as long as we serve the expectation of the material world, then there is a sink. But the moment if it is not served, it all vanishes. But the love of the God, whether we remember or we do not remember, it is always there. Even if we are entangled with the material world, the love of the God is continuously flowing on us.
Very true.
Whether we realize it or not realize it, that is not because we are serving with our bhavs that he is giving us. Being in the bhav is really serving us in every ways. The blissful moments are there presently, and good after effects are also there.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, God's grace is called ahetuki kripa, akaran karud. Causeless, he's causelessly merciful, and it keeps flowing, whether we acknowledge it or not. The regular grace is flowing all the times. Beautiful points, Artiji. Let's hear from other participants and then we'll move further. I can see quite a few hands.
Yeah.
So we can probably
Tripti ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yes, for me, the material world and the divine realm is we are too attached in the materialistic world, but where there is divinity, we are attached to God. You're not attached to what is the sansar. So for me, the basic difference is attachment and detachment.
Wonderful. Beautiful point. Thank you. Yes, real quick. Anybody have anything new to add to what we have already, those points that have already come up?
Seema ji has mentioned in the chat that God's love is eternal, whereas material is dependent on ego massage.
Ego massage, yeah. Interesting. Yes, let's hear maybe.
Yeah, Pragya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin, Pallavi ji and everyone. What a beautiful session going on, Nitin. Jaise roop dhyan ho jata hai when you are narrating Krishna tales. And such wonderful input from everyone. So yeah, someone had asked कि हमारा भाव एक जैसा नहीं रहता है whole day, because अभी हम वो स्थित प्रज्ञ स्थिति में आए नहीं हैं. We are not floating as butter in the world, where we remain untouched by what's happening around. But again, here Maharaj steps in and he says कि rag, dvesh, krodh, anurag, whatever bhav, feelings, emotions you have, just take it to God and it becomes pure. द्वेष है तो भी भगवान से करें, गुस्सा है तो भी भगवान से करें. भगवान आज कैसा दिन दिए हो, तुम्हारा ध्यान ही नहीं हो रहा है आज. Whatever. So you know, I've studied in a Christian missionary school, and there they had this concept of talking to God. वो as a child हम लोग के level पे ये बताते थे, everything is like, you know, you need a pencil, eraser, anything, whatever, you talk to God. But we need, when I listen to Maharaj, we take it to another level, where all your emotions, negative, positive, whatever, आग में आप जो भी डालोगे वो जल जाएगा, प्योर हो जाएगा. गंगा में जिस भी नदी नाले की पानी जाएगी वो गंगा जल बन जाएगी. So whatever emotions, feelings, I know it will not remain. We are still on a journey, sadhak. So साधक भी हैं कि नहीं है ये भी नहीं पता अब तक. So that is what you have to keep trying, whatever emotions. Like Kalka Lata Mangeshkar ka bhi, she had mentioned, and it touched my heart, that she used to talk to God. That is where, when you are able to talk to God, you are realizing him every moment with you, in your joy, in your sorrow, in whatever you are doing. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add to someone's question.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, Pragyati. I think for you it's pretty easy, right? All you need to do is prefix Sthit with your name and you become Sthit Pragya. Okay, it was a bad just leave it. But yeah, Lata Mangeshkar example you brought in, very, very nice. Yeah, she used to talk to God. That's what she had written. And in fact, it cannot be a coincidence that she picked the day when we do Saraswati Puja to actually depart, right? Because if you look at art, literature, poetry, all the maestros, they actually worship Saraswati. Goddess Saraswati is the bestower of all these skills. And she said, I always think that God has given me this gift And if I had not put 100% to it, this gift can be snatched away. And she would always get onto the stage without her sandals on. And she would always worship the stage before going that. All those things, she had that ability. It's not like if God has given me a skill, I'm just going to bhogify it and enjoy it for myself. Such a deep realization that she had. And I was really pretty amazed, when I was looking at, we were having Saraswati Puja the other day. We did a small Maun Vrat for her, not Vrat, I'm saying, a little Maun. And I was thinking, she chose a very auspicious occasion to depart, and maybe it was Mother Saraswati's way of telling her, you are my child, one of my favorite child. So great points. Yes, real quick, anybody wants to add, because I have a little more content to continue with this discussion. So real quick, maybe
I would like to give it to Sudhakarji.
Sudhakarji.
Please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Nitinji, very nice session actually. I'll not take more time, but my thought on the Bhav. Actually, Bhav is not going to be different. The only thing, the application of the Bhav towards the material world is slightly different and towards the divine. For example, in the material world means, for example, when I'm working, I should consider, for example, that this is my company and this is apart from the stakeholder or like a normal employee, like a salaried employee. So that is a Bhav. If you have, then you will different feeling. If the same thing, if you apply towards to the divine in the spiritual world, it is the same. To me, this is my perception, maybe I be wrong, I don't know. For me, the Bhav is basically the character of the soul, It is just which way you direct that Bhav, that will, to that extent, it will give the result. That's what God says. If your feeling towards the material world is pure and perfect, you will get the result. Similarly, if you apply that one towards the, the divine or spiritual path, you will achieve me. So this is what I understood. Sorry if I am wrong or I am misinterpreting others.
No worries. I'll tell you, there's an interesting lecture from Swamiji. I can share that with you. In fact, they say in material world also, you cannot have a pure bhav unless it is directed towards God. So no matter who you are directing it to, it cannot be pure. It will be tainted with material gunas, because either you will be doing it for yourself to enjoy it because I want to do it so that I can enjoy it, or you will be doing it for somebody in this world, which will again give you binding results. So unless you have loaded your intention behind the act that you are doing as a service to God, like in Karam Yoga, they say, right? To Yoga Vishishti said that the Karta, Vahir, Akarta, Antar, basically you do everything, but then do it with an understanding that you are doing it because God has given you that ability and you will do your best and for the pleasure of God. Like Latangveshkar example we're talking about, she said that God has given me this ability. If I don't put in my best, he may even take it away. That realization was there in her head. Not that God will truly take it away, but that is the way to inspire yourself to do your best and utilize your skill for a higher purpose, not just for the sake of enjoying this world for yourself or to serve somebody around you that you think is your social duty. Because para bhakti, paradharam and aparadharam, that's a different discussion altogether. But the point here being our bhav cannot be completely purified unless it is related to God. That is a deeper concept around it. I can see a couple of other hands. Let's pick up Padmaji and Artiji as we go to the new slide, because I have questions there as well. We can build on that. Let me first address this question that we are talking about, because a lot of you have touched upon that. So we'll get into a little more detail on that and then come up with that next question, which will help us build this discussion. So this is somebody in the material world, right? With the outstretched arms. Now, outstretched arms could be for two things. Either you are asking for something, it should come to you, or you're giving, we cannot really make out. So in the material world, if you look at it, this whole process is about take, and take. We'll look at some examples as well. And in the spiritual world, it's just the opposite. It's give, give, give. So all the bhavs that we have spoken about so far, the common denominator that is the wish to serve. Okay, that is the dominant emotion there, and that doesn't change. It's like tat sukh sukhitvam in Narad Bhakti Darshan. It is said, in your happiness lies my happiness. Now, whether that I want to serve you as your praja, as your das or as your sakha, that that emotion, the dominant emotion, is to serve. However, in this world, it is to take, take, take. It is a hard truth, but if you think deep enough, that is how it is, right? Even if your husband is serving a wife, okay, that motive would be, okay, if I don't do it, she will not serve me when I am sick, right? If or I will not get the dinner or food, if things go bad. And if wife is doing that, again, there is an inherent interest there that if something happens to him, who's going to take care of me, or could be something else as well. End of the day, the point here is some kind of a self-interest that we are trying to fulfill through that relation. And the day that self-interest finishes, things can finish off as well. So even when we serve our kids, there is an inherent desire that, okay, they will be cause for my happiness, either in my old age or the kind of happiness I get by interacting with them. End of the day, we are serving some kind of a desire, and we are trying to take something out of that emotion, because that is how we are wired. We are not yet there, so we don't have that ability to give. We do that in varying proportions at time, but that give is not unconditional. It may happen in some relations. It is said that the closest any relation can come to give is mother-child relationship, not necessarily son, could be daughter as well, mother-child relationship. But other than that, it is transactional. It is give and take. The day your credit and debit balance in that relationship starts fluctuating, where you have given more and withdrawn less, or that a person has lost that ability to give you back proportionately back, that imbalance, that conflict will start happening. That is how the bhavs are of this world are. And we are all sailing in the same boat. If you think deep enough about any relation, you will have that realization. First time you hear, no, it's immediately our mind will rebel. No, how can you say that? But think deeply about it. And when I heard it for the first time, I was like, okay, really? But then, yeah, after a while, I understood there is an inherent desire to take something from that relation. And if that bliss that we are seeking from that relation for some reason is impeded, then the relation will start crumbling as well. Can happen with friends, can happen in any relation for that matter. All right, so that is a bit of it, and that is how the world goes, and that is the reason why we go to so many temples, different temples. We worship so many devatas. Maharaj Ji was explaining that today only. I got that lecture. Thanks for sending it. You'll have to mute yourself if you're not. Thank you. So he was explaining, and that is one of the reasons that take that habit of just seeking our own self-interest, no matter where it is. We go to temples, we'll go to Dargah as well, we'll go to a lot of places just so that our wish is fulfilled, and we hedge our bets. If this God will not listen, then maybe this God will listen. That is why we worship so many devatas as well. But the desire is to take something out of it. Now, if we give, that is counterintuitive concept. What happens? Let's look at, when you perfect your devotion around that, what are some of the things, what are some of the possibilities? We cannot reach there as yet, okay? But let's look at some Ashta Sattvic Bhav. These are the bhavs that can manifest in people who have realized, God realized, or who actually descend down after God realization as saints on this earth. There are times even they are not able to hide it. So let's look at what are those bhavs. What kind of bliss are we talking about? The first one is called stambh. Body turns stiff like a pillar. These are the kind of bliss possibilities. Not possibilities, the kind of bliss they experience. It's not an ordinary bliss by serving God. Whether you are doing it in a dasya bhav, shant bhav, vatsalya bhav, whichever bhav you are in. These are some of the, just to get an idea. The second one is shwed, where you start sweating profusely. The third one is romanch, where you'll have goosebumps. The hair will stand all over the body and out of ecstasy and extreme joy. The fourth one is swarbhed, where your voice will start shaking, quivering, and it starts changing. The fifth one is vepatu, which basically means that now your body is shivering as well. These symptoms can manifest. These symptoms manifest in saints. The sixth one is Vavarna. Basically, in this, the complexion itself turns pale, as if you are drained of all the blood. These are all the bhavs. Then ashru, crying is a very common symptom. Even in bhakti, when you sit sometimes, you will have moments, you will not know why you're crying, but you will cry. It's not thinking about some friend or relative or something, nothing of that sort. It's when your soul gets in touch with itself, or with God, that little bit of trace can get your tears flow down. Those kind of things can happen. But these ashru that I'm talking about is part of Ashta Sattvic Bhag at a different level altogether. Incessantly shedding tear, and then pralay, in which the person will fall unconscious. So these are the bhavs which devotees, once they have realized God, can actually experience. We cannot understand these. We have that thermostat that we spoke about. If we get one of these bhavs, even in limited proportion, will collapse. That is how powerful these are. And these bhavs can actually manifest. There is two attributes to it. One is the concurrency, simultaneously. How many simultaneously you can have? And then the periodicity or the frequency. And that can vary, right? Somebody can have 2-3 manifesting simultaneously, and maybe every few hours and things like that. We're not going to get into that discussion today. But then all the 8 bhavs manifesting simultaneously, it's not possible for a normal human being, any jivatma. It has to be an avatari purush, swanch of God only. All right, so with that, let's continue the discussion. I think to build on that, what is in it for me is what drives us basically, and that's where we can have a discussion. It is actually related to the previous question, with the context thrown in that when you give, it's not that you're losing out. When you perfect that giving up, that is called the highest state of devotion, the perfection that God is wanting us. It's like a shadow. When you chase it, it'll run away. And when you stop chasing it, it'll start following you. It's the same thing. God wants us to perfect that, and then he will give the topmost gift that he has in form of divine love. Now, the question today is, again, as a follow-up question, and let's take, I think Padmaji, and we had one more hand raised. We couldn't cover RTG to talk about the same concept, but we have posed it in a different way. The same question. What is in it for me is the driver for us in every relation that we build in this world, no matter which relation it is. Okay, let's get that going.
Nitinji, can I please take a moment to make
for
the announcements?
And
Yes.
put the feedback tracker as well. So while making, you can fill out the feedback tracker, and then we'll continue with this discussion. So
thank you. Yeah.
And I'm happy to stick around a little extra. So don't worry, you'll have time.
So I'm posting the link to the feedback tracker. Please.
Two things I wanted to announce. One is the Sanskriti event. I'll make it easy for you, Pallaviji, which
thank
is
you. Yeah, please.
From Friday, starting Friday over the weekend. So if you're in or around Dallas area, do enroll your kid. It's a great platform for them to showcase their skill and also build confidence. That's one. And second is, I would strongly encourage all of you, now that with COVID times, one of the blessings that we have gotten is that everything is online. So do attend satsangs. We have beautiful satsang that happens over the weekend. Once you start absorbing your mind in kirtans and start listening to discourses on a consistent basis, you can reap rich dividends. You can see it, within a few months. You don't even have to wait. So do take an opportunity for these two. Over to you, Pallaviji, for the announcements. And I'll take a quick break while you make the announcements. Please go ahead.
Can I please share my screen?
Sure. You can share your screen.
I'll just take a quick moment to go over all the announcements. Yeah, thank you. Can you all see my screen? Let me please. Not sure. Can you see my screen? Not yet. Were you able to see? Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
Yes, Pallaviji, we could.
Yeah, I think I closed that. Okay. Now can you all see?
Yes, we can see that. Can go ahead.
All right. So I wanted to make the announcements about Bhishma Ekadasi. Bhishma Ekadasi is being celebrated on Saturday, 12th February, 7 p.m. CST onwards. And it is in online as well as in person. In person at Radhakrishna Temple, and it is online as well. Do take advantages of this celebration. There's a lot of good things here. Sri Vishnu Sahasranam recitation, blissful kirtan, Maha Aarti. So this is on Saturday, which is February 12th. The next one is Gopi Prem Divas, which is on JK Yog and Radhakrishna Temple are thrilled to announce the celebration for Gopi Prem Divas celebration on Sunday, February 13th, 2022. And that is filled with blissful kirtan, beautiful meditation, aarti. And this is going to go from 10:30 a.m. onwards to 12:30 p.m. CST. So this is again a virtual as well as in-person event. It's a great event, Gopi Prem Divas. I have attended it last year, wonderful event. The next is 175th Saint Tyagaraja Aradhana. This we have been announcing this event. It is going to be on Saturday, February 19th and Sunday, February 20th. That is Saint Tyagaraja Aradhana. It is again going to be in person as well as online. And this going to be, the human brain has rhythm of its own. Oh, fun facts are also there. Music training enhances these brain rhythm. So there's going to be musical program. Nitinji, do you know much more about this event?
Pallaviji, it's out of syllabus for me for today. So
I'll find more information about it and do share. The next upcoming event is JK Yog Global International Women's Day, which is going to be Saturday, March 5th. And we will keep sharing more information about this event as well. And the next is Holi, upcoming event. Again, we'll keep giving more information about it. It is going to be in March. So thank you for your participation and do take advantage of all the events. Those are wonderful, wonderful events and celebrations to join. Thank you, Nitinji.
Thank you,
Over
Pallavi.
to you.
All right, so let's get
I'll
back.
stop sharing. Yeah.
So thank you. By the way, the Gopi Prem Divas, if you translate it into English, it's called Valentine Day. Okay, so that's what we celebrate it from a spiritual context. What is true love? And when we celebrate true love, gopis are the epitome or the parikashtha of that. And that is what we are going to discuss on 14th and 15th in our session about Madhurya Bhav and what is true love. That this whole concept of love, we are going to challenge some of the paradigms around that. All right, let's get back to our discussion. So we build all relations in this world based on, it's not World War III, it's what is in it for me. Okay, so let's get that.
Padmaji, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
I'll make it short here and then I'll put it on the portal.
Sure.
When we really deeply think about this, right? Any relationship that we make, including our own relationship with self, there is always that underlining, I hope this happens. I hope I get this. I hope the things happen like this. I hope. So there is any relationship, when we really deeply think about it, including ourselves, there is always that underlining hope. A very simple example that we can think about, let's say, we have a new baby born, and already we plan for the baby. If it's a baby girl, we are already building, we are conditioned to build our perception. One day she's going to grow up, we have to give her education, we have to make her educated and be successful, and one day she's going to be off. So we're already building the perception of not just that single living being, but then the relationship that we are already perceiving as parents, that she's going to be married one day. And then we don't unless you really spiritually, not a single parent would raise their child or want to raise the child, oh, you know what, I'm going to raise a saint, not been married, not have a house, not have a spouse, not have an education, not have a job, right? Our fundamental foundation of thinking itself is out of some expectations, right? Whether it's a boy, okay, he's going to be educated, he's going to get a job. So these are all fundamentally, we are, any relationship that we build, even a job also, there is expectation that we would get paid and everything. So we're conditioned that way. And one to say that there is no underlying expectations, I think we are really not recognizing our own self. That is one thing that I want to say. And then the level of complaining and compromising and boundaries that we draw within our perception of that our material relationship is directly telling us on our face that these are all relationship which has boundaries. But when you compare that to the spiritual realm, right, God is all pervasive and he has no judgment. He is not going to judge you race, color, good, bad, whatever. You give him faith, he's going to give you faith. Even if you're going to take a bad action, if you really truly give him faith, he will give you faith. And one thing, sorry, should I stop?
No, you can finish off your thought.
Yeah. So for me, this is how I perceive, like in Mahabharata or Ramayana, right? All the Rakshasas, they were able to actually impress gods. Even though God might have the perception that they're asking for something evil, but he gave it to them. He's like, you know what, I'm going to give you, because you gave me faith, I'm going to give you the blessings, whatever the grace is, but the karma is yours. So he is all pervasive and he's not judgmental about anything. You give him faith, he's going to give you more faith. And then the second question that you asked, what is in it for me? What is not? I think the right question for us to ask is, what is not? Any small relationship that you take and any big relationship and then if you want to write something, what is it not in, what is that I'm not expecting out of that relationship? I'm pretty sure that we will come out with big list of what is that we're expecting out of that relationship. That's how I perceive it.
Yep. I think that's an inherent part of our very being, that everything starts with an expectation and we are so hardwired to have it that we don't have to put an effort. It's very subtle and this is how we operate. Okay, it might come in a disguise that I'm doing it for you, but the fact of the matter is there is absolutely no way we cannot have any expectation or some kind of a self-interest in anything that we do. Is always a motive, some kind of a self-interest, because we are not yet there, because our true self-interest is not yet fulfilled, which is that of satiating our soul. So unless or until it happens, it will continue to be like that. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. Unless we realize God, we will not get rid of that selfishness. But for us to realize God, we need selflessness. So that simulation has to happen. That is what devotion and spirituality is all about. We need to simulate it, and then God will supplement it, strengthen us, and then we will perfect it. That is how this process goes.
Right. One thing that I do want to add on the positive side, right? When you start giving, a beautiful thing that you brought up, right? When you start giving, when you really practice like those baby steps of giving, you will feel very, very liberated. And actually you don't feel the burden of what might happen, or what if this happens, this is how I'm supposed to respond. If this happens, this is how I'm supposed to respond. That whole scenario of confusion will be gone out of the picture. When you start giving, your mind and heart will purify slowly, and you will feel so liberated that you don't have to take the burden of the action. You don't have to take the burden of the result. At that point, you will be left with, you know what, I'm going to leave the burden of whatever that results come, good or bad. You're willing to leave it up to God's feet.
Very true. Beautiful point, Padmaji. There's a story, right? There was a woman who used to go to a temple every day. She would collect woods from forest and then go to a temple to pay her pranams to Thakurji. And on one of the days, what happened was that when she was walking, the logs that she was carrying, it fell down from her head. And then Lord Krishna, he saw, Thakurji saw that, okay, today she will not be, she needs some help. So he actually came He said, how can I help you? And it was the same, deity personified in front of her. And he said, how can I help you? She said, can you please put those logs back on my head? That is our problem in life. Okay, we want to carry the burden which God is more than willing to carry for us. So that is the whole problem. So she wanted to put that burden back, and that's what we tell God as well. Can you keep putting the burden back on our head? Because we think we are the problem solvers here. We think we are the doers here. And this whole process, like Ji Maharaj Ji beautifully explains, is to become the child as we used to be. Because we are not child, we have taken control and we think we are somebody because of our ego. God has taken a back seat. The day we become like child, mother will take control. Child doesn't have to do anything at all, right? Yeah, he's completely dependent on the mother. And then everything is getting done. So that is the whole state of reversing our mindset to reach that stage of perfect surrender where, okay, God, everything is in your hand. And then he's more than happy to lift us for us and basically take control of our lives. Easier said than done, but we have to fight that battle with our spoiled mind. Basically, that is the whole game of spirituality. We have to get better at it. So we will, for sure. We need to be ashavadi around that. Okay, any other hands? I saw a couple of other hands.
Yes.
I think Aarti ji, if she's there, I think your commitment is already locked. Once you raise your hand, we take a picture and then you have to speak.
So, Nitinji, there are a couple of messages in the chat also.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Lakshmi Prasanna ji has mentioned, it's all for our happiness, but we need to realize that happiness should be to our soul, not to our body.
Beautiful point. Swarthi, Swa Arth. Maharaji says that we are all Swarthis, and there's no problem with that. Okay, we will continue to be Swarthi until our actual earth will get hull. But then if we even understand where our true self-interest will get served, then also the problem is solved. So we are Swarthi, but the direction that we have taken to fulfill that self-interest is completely wrong.
Right.
That is the problem. So Swarthi is being fine, but first we have to understand who we truly are. We relate ourselves to our mind and body, and then the bodily associates my this, my that, my this relative, my that relative, right? My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my spouse and my husband and whoever. And then that's where our entire world keeps rotating around. Our mind space is taken by these things for most part of our life or entire life or across lifetimes. That is the spin. We need to basically stem that thing and correct that whole thing. So the calculation that our mind has done in order to solve this puzzle called life and the direction it has taken is all wrong. That is what spirituality is telling us, right? So the first step of the equation, you have done 2 + 3 is equal to 5. And now you keep on solving the equation, and then you will wonder why I'm not getting closer to the answer. How will we get? We have made the fundamental mistake to begin with. That is what our scriptures are telling us. 2 + 3 is 4, right? 2 + 3 = 4. So yeah, pardon my maths. Okay, I thought I was strong in maths, but apparently not. So yeah. Yes. Do we have anybody else? I know.
Yes.
I think we can wrap up our question session soon, unless somebody has a
I
question.
see Seemaji's hand raised, Nitinji.
Sure.
Now I'm seeing a couple of hand raised.
All right. Sure. We can take a couple of them.
Seemaji.
Put a hard stop at 15 minutes more, right? So yes.
Okay. Seemaji.
Yes,
Please
Seemaji.
go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
That story about the woman wanting to carry the burden. I think we are programmed to do that in order to survive in this material world, so we can do the normal course of educating ourselves, becoming independent, standing on your own feet. And after we've done all that, and when we're doing and all that, and what's in it for me, we sidetrack and sidestep spirituality. Then we come back on the regular, we derail our train, and then we come back and start the spirituality. So we can't really not take the burden. If we don't, then we become a leech to the society. So I think that is important to do that. But unfortunately, we don't do parallel jobs of doing that plus spirituality at the same time until there is that awakening of the soul that says, okay, the true happiness is in God. However, we need to carry out our material duties. God helps those who help themselves. So if we carry on our material duties and hat may kam, man may ram, that usually,
Nice. Wonderful.
but it takes time. And once we are on the path, and I forgot what I was going to say, but I'll put that in the blog, the main point. Yeah, but that was about what's in it. Me, I forgot. Okay, it'll come to me. But yeah, and then when we do progress after our awakening on the spiritual path, different people climb the spiritual ladder at different rates, that rung. And I have experienced goosebumps with spirituality and tears, but not incessantly, like it says, one of those, with the intense longing for God. So something.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that, Seema ji, your personal experience around that. I'm sure a lot of sadhaks would have experienced that in varying proportions. Shivaji used to say even the tears have their quality, right? But all the tears, they are not real until Sham Sundar, Lord himself, comes and wipes them off. Okay, that is when you have reached that stage. So there will be a day when the tears will flow and God will come and wipe him off with his cloth.
I can't wait for that day. Okay, 2 + 3 is 5.
Thanks for sharing that anyways. All right, let's quickly hear. We can.
Yes, Sunit ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Sunit ji.
Radhe 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 Radhe. First of all, thank you very much, Nitin ji, for bringing a smile on our face as you explained about this, how Krishna was holding this on his little finger. So really, it's brought a big smile on my face. So second thing, you just talk about this burden. The lady, the God want to take away the burden, but lady want to carry it. I just want to share this experience from my life. Like in the morning, right, is breakfast time. So my husband say, okay, I'll manage with the breakfast little bit. So you go and attend this session. I said, no, I'll come and do that. So God want to take the burden away so that I can attend this session. So that's it. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful way of looking at it. Very true. I told, right, when we start making spirituality our progress is priority, then the world starts supporting us some way or another. What will it take, Lord, to actually turn the key in somebody's heart, right? Just turn it, okay, and help out. Not a big deal. Great realization. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wonderful. Radhe Radhe.
Pragya ji.
Yes, Pragya.
Yeah.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin, Pallavi. Yes.
We certainly don't mind, Pragya, you putting on your video like you did. So please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes. Please go ahead. Good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm yet to get comfortable with videos and all. जब सखा भाव की बात चली है तो महाराज जी का भजन तो बनता है.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
I'll not sing this whole. Yeah, people can check on YouTube. It's a very beautiful bhajan और महाराज जी पूरे एंथू में गा रहे हैं with choicest expressions. It's very endearing, enamoring, everything. And yeah, when someone was talking of expectations, I want to say it's very natural. It's very natural in the world. Again, महाराज जी की एक शायरी याद आ रही है, उसका सेकंड लाइन कि इस चाहत को थोड़ा तरस से छोड़ दो. अनंत जन्म से हमें मांगने की आदत हो गई है. So if we realize it in our world, since all relationships are based on expectations, it has become a victim of expectations. That is why relationships are failing so much in the present time, more than anywhere else if we look back, where tolerance was more. थोड़ा सा करते हैं, expectations इतना रखते हैं. So again, in the world of God, why Maharaj ji insists on Nishkam Bhakti is क्योंकि जब हम expectations या मन्नत लेकर भगवान के पास जाते हैं, oh sorry, I'm speaking too much in Hindi. Okay, if we go with a lot of expectations to God, the fallout is if our expectations is not fulfilled, we will become Gnostic. That is why, so different equations work. Especially in the world of God, Maharaj ji doesn't want our faith to fritter, deter, or anything. So to accept whatever he gives, he has given so many examples like a couple didn't have child and the neighbor had the next child or the next child. So they were thinking, ye kaisa nyay hai tumhara? Which so many of us often talk also like this. Bhagwan, ye tumhari kaisi nyay hai? Where others are getting so much and I've been asking and you are not giving me. So I think the primary underlying thing behind this Nishkamta, as you were also saying, is what I understand is that हमारा faith कम नहीं होना चाहिए, बढ़ना चाहिए, and more acceptance and tolerance grows within us if we move with Nishkam devotion. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Cool, Pragyadi, thank you very much. And let me recite that share for you, okay, the one that you touched upon. So you can do wah wah to me after if I am able to recite that. खूब तरसाया है तेरी ख्वाहिशों ने ही तुझे, खूब तरसाया है तेरी ख्वाहिशों ने ही तुझे, तू ही अब इन ख्वाहिशों को कुछ तरसती छोड़ दे. That is the motive of life. We have always run out of.
Wow.
Thank you. तू ही अब इन ख्वाहिशों को कुछ तरसती छोड़ दे. So we have to get to that stage where we leave them unfulfilled and make peace with it. Because chasing these khwahishein is making us rotate in this 8.4 million cycle. One closure if you don't have in our life, because of whatever reason, rag or dvesh, could be something that we are craving for, or could be something that we detested and we did not have a closure in our head. One unfulfilled thing is good enough for us to repeat. So it's important to move beyond this and make a solid business case to go to the spiritual abodes beyond Parvyom, within Parvyom Lok now. Last one, we can conclude the session. I know we are over time, so if we can do really quick, we can take that and then give a break to Pallavi ji as well, because it's very late for her. Okay.
Nitin ji, can you please share that shairi, please, so that we can, where can we find that shairi? Wonderful.
Right now it's in my mind, but I'll share it with you. So I'll repeat it. खूब तरसाया है तेरी ख्वाहिशों ने ही तुझे, तू ही अब इन ख्वाहिशों को कुछ तरसती छोड़ दे.
Wow.
It's a very deep one. Maharaj ji said that. I loved it. So,
wonderful.
All right.
All right. Aarti ji, you are last but not the least. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity, ma'am. I do not know whether it is connected with the context or not, but what I have seen when a child is born, he sometimes, without anybody attending the child laughs, sometimes cries. And then when I used to ask my Dadi ji, why my grandmother, my nanny, then they say that God is playing with the child. Because sometimes it is more in soul consciousness, sometimes repenting and weeping for the past karmas. Sometimes then God comes and plays and makes the child happy. Because at now, when as the child grows up, what I have seen, like my daughter, she was very much into puja and all. Like I was also, when I was a kid, I had so many dreams of Shivling and Lord Krishna in dreams, literally. And then as I've grown up and have come to this age of 40, I really crave for those dreams. Maybe I was too much entangled in so many things one after the other that those dreams stopped coming. And in fact, with my daughter also, I can relate while she was a kid, 7-year-old, till 7-year-old, she was so much into puja and she was so much happily talking to God, literally. Like that concept came in between that we used to talk to God. In the same way, while if she gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, she used to talk, okay, you, this time I told you wake me up at 3:30, why half an hour late? She literally talks to Lord Krishna. And then what happened when she was in her 9th year, one German Shepherd was brought by my husband, and she got entangled with the German Shepherd so much day in and day out that that concept of talking, it went away. The dog was the most priority, always running after. Now, when the dog was also snatched away because of some illness, somebody said that God is bringing that, the dog is bringing the misfortune, and my husband was very ill. So that dog was, for the misfortune's sake, that dog was removed out of the house. And then she became so sad and depressed. And then again, she finally took, God's conversation. And that took her out of the depression. For 1 year long, ma'am, I also serve in a different district. And it was only through God conversation that she could come out of. And that was, she was the only person, because my husband was ill. Nobody was too much talking to her. She was lonely, but that pure conversation pulled her out of that depression and detachment of the God. And again, like what I feel is, as we grow up, we are into so much of, for myself, I'm saying that we are one after the other, so many things. They keep our, we get attached to it, and then we forget God. Like we expect from the elder kids that they should behave their age. In the same way, God also wants that you grow up and be He is not saying that you stop your enjoyment. If you are so much seeking enjoyment in these things only, so be with them. And if you really have a sense of my belonging, you will definitely come to me. But there is no force. It's unconditional from God's side.
True, very true.
And
I think there are deep realizations for sure. Kids have their own sanskars. Up to a certain age, their past sanskars are there. It is said Vidhi Mata, or they have their past memories as well. But beyond a point, their own sanskars they start becoming dominant. And sometimes God snatches away something, like a mother snatches away a toy, so that the kid can remember what it's supposed to do, as opposed to getting hung up in toys only. These kind of things can happen. The best we can do is focus on our journey and help out as a facilitator, whether it's our kid or whoever is around, and not get too attached to that process, because then again we are causing an attachment in our mind, and that might be counterproductive for our spiritual journey, because there's only so much we can do for someone. Beyond a point, their own stars will dictate it. So great point. I know we are way over time now, so we'll continue with this discussion tomorrow. Pallaviji, I would yes, Aartiji, real quick now, because
Yes, I wanted to sing 2 lines of bhajan for Lord Krishna. All the devotees are here.
Yes, for the sake of time, you can. Please.
Yeah, I will not repeat the lines.
Sure.
But yes. आओ मिलकर चले वृंदावन में, वहीं पर श्याम सुंदर मिलेंगे, उनकी हाथों में होगी मुरलिया, वो तो वंशी बजाते मिलेंगे, ओखली में बंधे होंगे कान्हा, माटी को खाते होंगे, यशोदा जब खुलाएंगे मुख को, वो ब्रह्मांड दिखाते मिलेंगे, कभी गोपिन के संग में होंगे, कभी ग्वालों के संग में होंगे, गैयन को बचाने को गिरधर गोवर्धन उठाए मिलेंगे, अर्जुन जब छोड़ धनुष को मोह में व्याकुल होंगे, कुरुक्षेत्र के मध्य में भगवन गीता को सुनाते मिलेंगे, आओ मिलकर चले वृंदावन में, वहीं पर श्याम सुंदर मिलेंगे. Thank you. Thank you for the.
Thank you very much. Your devotion is very palpable, as you can see, and pleasure to have you on these sessions. Thank you so much, Aarti ji, for a wonderful closure to the session today. I know we are way over late. Seema ji, real quick, if you can do that, because we are way over time now.
Yes, 30 seconds or less.
Sure.
I remembered what I was going to say, and I'll just read it quickly. Why we build a relationship, what's in it for me? That it's like when we pursue higher principles and values, the lower ones disappear. That's all. Thank you.
Short and sweet, very nice. Thank you so much. I'm sure we can have a lot more discussion on our portal around it. So thank you, everybody. Once again, tomorrow I'll see you with the next Bhav. Tomorrow we are going to graduate to Vatsalya Bhav. And the day after, I just want to remind, we are not going to have that session. I'll send out a separate note on that. Thank you again for spending your time today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We can do our closing prayers. Sarve Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Radhe Radhe. Good morning. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitinji, for such a wonderful session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day. Have a beautiful day, and have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you.